Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to attempt to make a green tomato chutney. I say attempt because I've never made a green tomato chutney before and I'm not following a recipe. I'm going to make it up as I go along. Having said that, I did read through several recipes yesterday to give me a vague idea of the direction I need to be heading in. Then raided the cupboards for all sorts of goodies that might be just perfect to make my green tomato chutney. I shall weigh and measure as I go, and if the finished result is delicious, I'll have a record of how to make it again. And if it's disgusting, I'll also have a record of never do that, it's horrible. So I've got my tomatoes, good starting point. I've also got some onions. I could probably do with a few more. I've also got half an onion that was in the fridge from using the other day, so I'll put that in as well. There were 3 apples in the fruit bowl, so I've fished them out. They're going to go in. I've some raisins. I think these are raisins as opposed to sultanas, so I'm going to put some raisins in. That's all the malt vinegar I have, which is probably not enough for the quantity of tomatoes I have. So I'm going to bulk that out with just standard white distilled vinegar, of which I always have loads. I've also got half a bottle of some balsamic vinegar here. So I'm going to put that in because I think that will really add a lovely rich flavour to my mix. So I've got lots of vinegars all get mixed together to give me the vinegar I need. I'm going to put these up there. Oh, stretch into you. Some dark brown sugar. And then I raided the spice cupboard. So I've got some garlic powder. I'm going to put some of that in. I've got some ground ginger and Chinese 5-spice. I might have quite a bit of that in. We'll see how the taste goes. And some black peppercorns that I shall crack into it. So that's all my ingredients. It should need to be cooking for about an hour and a half, 2, sometimes 3 hours. We'll see how it goes, just simmering away. So I've got my big pot for putting things in. So let's clear down the surfaces and give me a bit of workspace. Put all these things at the back out of the way. Speedy clear. Speed the camera up. Right. So, let's get started. First job, chop up my tomatoes into, I don't know, into chunks. We'll have a look once I've chopped it and see how they're looking. And then weigh them up and see how many I've actually got. I'm going to switch you off for a second and I'll see you back here when the tomatoes are all chopped up, and probably peel and chop the apples as well, and the onions. So when I've done all my peeling and chopping and weighed up a few things, we'll call you back. So I'll see you then. Hello and welcome back. Tomatoes all chopped up. With that, for our recipe's sake, 1 kilo of chopped green tomatoes and a couple of blushy pink ones as well. I've got white and red onions. I've written out my hand because I keep forgetting. 370 grams of onion. So I'm going to throw them in the pan now. And I don't know what my apples are yet, so I'm going to weigh those now. Oh, don't worry, I've got my apples all diced up. I've chopped most things up to about 1 centimetre square, ½ inch square size chunks. There, and put my apple in there just to weigh it up. It's 240 grams of apple. Again, that's because that's what I have available in my cupboard. Now we'll add some raisins. A total of 150 grams of raisins. Give you a look so you see what's going on. There we go. All our things. It's surprising how much we've got mixed in the pan. Now to start adding our vinegars. Now generally I would have just added either an apple cider vinegar. Ooh, I've got some of that. I'll put some of that in as well. And a malt vinegar. I might get away with just that. Yes, let's put some apple cider in. What a great idea. Ooh, squirty top on this. I'll use all of my apple cider. Forgotten I even had this. Different area of kitchen. Right, so that's the apple cider. Cool. Now, I probably want just enough liquid to cover my vegetables. So I've got a combination of 8 fluid ounces of apple cider vinegar. Is that an 8? And 8, so I've got 8 fluid ounces of my malt vinegar. I want to put, I'm sure this balsamic is going to affect the flavour in a good way. So I want to be using this. I love balsamic vinegar. It's a little bit more pricey, but in salad dressings and such like, it's amazing. I don't know how much there was left in this bottle, but I'm going to use all of what I have left. Have I got some more balsamic? I think I have. I want to bring it. I think I've got 5 ounces in a moment. It's hard to see, it's so dark. I've got something in my eye. Annoying. Right. Don't know, more balsamic vinegar. I'm going to bring this up to maybe 8 again while I've got another bottle. 8. Makes life easy remembering. Oh, that's nice. Rich and dark. Definitely need more vinegar. So I've got 3 lots of 8. So 24 fluid ounces of vinegar so far. And I'm going to have to, I don't want to finish it off with this. I'm going to use the rest of my malt vinegar and top that up. Use all of this. So I'm going to top that up to 4 fluid ounces, just for easy measuring. 4. I'm going to stop there. So I haven't, you only used a splash of this one. I'm not even going to count it. So, and a 4. So 8, 3/8 and a 4. So what were we? So 28 fluid ounces. You can't see what's going on, but if I move you, you can. I've set up another camera over the cooker so you can see what's going on in this saucepan. So I'll move you around. Here we go, lovely saucepan full of all those gorgeous ingredients. Onion, apple, green tomato, the main reason we're making it at all, and raisins for some sweetness. So this is the level of my fluid. You can that side, this side would be better for you. There we go. There's the level of the fluid we've got. We're not quite covering it all, but very nearly. I've got sugar to add to this as well, haven't we yet? That's a main ingredient. Brown sugar. I definitely want a cupful at least, but as I haven't got a cup measure, I'm going to have to do 2 half a cups. Sticky brown sugar. There we go. So that's half a cup, 83 grams. We'll call it 80 grams. So going to be 2 lots of 80 grams, 160 grams of brown sugar. So 160. So now the exciting bit, some spices. Let's get a teaspoon. 1 teaspoon. Bring my spices over. So 1 cup of brown sugar. Doesn't seem much sugar. I think I maybe want more. The sugar is going to aid the caramelization to make this a thick jammy mix. I'm going to put another 140 in. I'm going to put another 140 grams of sugar in, which will give us a total of 300. Because we're basically making a jam, just it's got vinegar instead of fruit juice as its liquid base. Gives the acidity for the pickle. Wrong way around for the camera. Right, used to this. There we go. So I'm going to put that in. So we've got 300 for our recipe, 300 grams of dark brown sugar. So dissolve that in. And I'm sure that will help us amazingly when we start boiling this down. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn my heat on to start bringing this to the boil. So that can be warming up while we add some spices. I'm not sure about the garlic. I'll leave that till last. Ground ginger is a must. So we'll start with a teaspoonful of that. 1 teaspoon of ground ginger. 2 teaspoons of ground ginger. I want a nice spicy mix. Gingery chutney. 2 teaspoons of ground ginger. A teaspoonful of ground black pepper. I'm only going to put a teaspoon of this in because I'm not a big pepper fan. And we've not added this, my Chinese 5-spice. So I want quite a bit of this because it smells amazing, quite aniseedy and lovely. So I'll probably put 3 teaspoons of this in because it's smelling gorgeous. Woo! Right, 1 heapy teaspoon. 2, that was a normal one. If I do a small one, not very small, we'll call that 3 Chinese 5-spice. I don't know what's in Chinese 5-spice. It's aniseed, cinnamon, fennel, black pepper and cloves. That's why it smells aniseedy. So you could make your own 5-spice with those 5 spices. So if you don't have a Chinese 5-spice, I would say equal mixes of all of those spices and you can make your own. In fact, I think that's what I just might do in future. So how is this smelling? It's looking great. That aniseedy is lovely. I'm liking that a lot. So no garlic powder yet. Let's have 1 garlic powder. And 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. Because quite a few of the recipes call for garlic powder. I don't want a really garlicky chutney, but I do like garlic in bologneses and stews and things. So we'll stir that in as well, and then I'm going to give this vinegary sauce a taste and see what I think of the flavour. It's yet to get all the flavours of the apples and raisins into it. But let's see what we're like for a start, because I'm making chutney for me to eat, so if I don't like it, there's no point. Little tanginess, which chutney should have. I'm really happy with that. So I'm going to let this boil down. So that's my pan warming on the stove. I'm going to bring that to the boil till it's bubbling and then turn my heat down so we're just on a gentle simmer. I expect it to simmer for well over an hour, probably 2, maybe even 3. I'm going to keep bubbling it and simmering it. Basically it's reducing, evaporating off some of the liquid until it's thick. I will test it in the same way you would test for jam setness. I'm going to pop a saucer in my fridge now, so I've got a cold plate to test it on, and as it's getting nearer its set time, I'll drip some of the juiciness onto a plate to see if it will set up like a jam does, thick and sticky. You want a sort of thick, sticky, jammy consistency, and it'll be ready to go into the jars. Jars! I don't have any jars ready. I'll go and find myself some jars to put it in while it's coming up to heat. So, we'll see you when that's all bubbling and boiling. So here we are, bubbling away. I wasn't looking at the clock, so I don't know how long it's taken me for my stove to get this to the boiling point. I'm thinking now that it looks like I've got too much liquid. I can't really take it out, it's got all the spices and flavours in it. It's with the tomatoes and apple cooking that's created more liquid in the pan.
but we'll see. It needs to reduce. What are we now? I'm 12 o'clock, 10 past 12. So it's 10 past 12 here. We'll see how many hours this needs to sit on the stove to reduce to a thick jammy liquid. I could add more sugar if I'm not thickening. That will help it thicken at a liquidier stage. But for now I'm just going to leave it simmering and boiling. It's boiling at the moment. I'm going to turn it down so it just stays simmering to evaporate off some of that fluid. It might be looking absolutely perfect. As I said, I've maybe made chutney twice in my entire life, and never a green tomato one. So we'll see how this gets on. I'll leave it simmering. We might still be here at 3 o'clock bubbling away, you never know. As long as it tastes delicious, it'll be great. So we'll see you back here in however many hours it takes to get dark and thick, because all these bits of onion and apple will take up that dark colour of the sugars and malt vinegar. Smells great.
Oh my, that was a mad last minute scramble. I hadn't given any thought to preparing jars to put my chutney in. It's getting near the end of my preserving season, and I'm getting short on jars on the shelf to put things into. I don't like putting an acidic chutney mix into a metal topped jar. I find over time the acidity starts to corrode and eat away at the lids. It's not good. Even though the chutneys and pickles we buy in the shops come in jars with metal lids on, they've got this plastic film coating inside to help protect them. Maybe it's thicker on a pickly jar than it is on a jar of, I don't know, jam. But I just avoid it. That it could be on the shelf. I might have my chutney on the shelf for 2 or even 3 years, and it's perfectly good to eat. And these lids just won't hold up to it. So I definitely want either a glass lidded jar with the rubber seals, or I've been storing up my old, I like these little coffee jars. I usually buy my coffee in a big jar because I'm a big instant coffee fan. But these little jars I've got a few of are really good for pickly chutney acid things because the plastic doesn't deteriorate in that acidic environment. I didn't have many glass ones left. I raided the fridge, I decanted the remains of a jar of jam and put it in a plastic tub so that I can have the jam pot. And I've got some quince jelly I did the same with. So a few jars got raided out of the fridge, contents tipped out and jars washed so that I could have a few more rubber sealed clip top lid jars to put my chutney in. Panic! Ah!
Got myself some jars together. That was a bit of a panic. I wasn't ready for that at all. Still bubbling and darkening, and we're 25 past 12. It is surprising me how quickly the colour is darkening up. Those pieces of apple look like carrot floating in a gravy stew. It does look very much like a beefy stew at the moment. Doesn't smell anything like a beefy stew. Oh, vinegar up my nose. I do still feel there's a lot of liquid there. It's only been 30 minutes though, so we're going to be bubbling away for quite some time. I'm going to turn my heat up just a little bit and keep a close eye on it. Speed up that evaporation. Here's our pan of bubbling chutney, now an hour and 45 minutes after we started. It is reducing quite nicely, but in order to aid this thickening to more of a jammy consistency, I've decided I'm going to add half a cup of plain white sugar. That will hopefully help me bring it to a thick jammy consistency. So here goes a half a cup of sugar. Sprinkle it in everywhere and get all of it, and stir that through, and it'll very quickly dissolve in all those juices. And I suspect, looking at the fluidness of it, we are looking at another hour on the boil at least. Well, on the simmer. Not an hour boiling, an hour simmering and steaming and reducing. Maybe I'll add another half a cup. So there we go, very dark, but still very liquidy. I think if I did it again, I would not add our last serving of vinegar. I would stick with 3, so 24 fluid ounces of vinegar would be plenty for this volume of tomato and apple. Well, here we are, still bubbling away, and it's 3 o'clock. So this pan of chutney has been on the stove for 3 hours. It has reduced a lot, which is good. I've decided, because we're still quite liquid, as you see, you may have noticed, I already measured it out. So in goes my second half a cup of white sugar. Hopefully this won't make it too sweet. There. Mix that in and give it a taste, and hopefully we haven't over sweetened, and it's definitely increased the viscosity, there's a good word for me, increase the thickness of this. We've certainly got a good half hour more boiling to go, possibly even an hour. Wow. A long time simmering. Okay, well, see you back in another 30 minutes and see how we're getting on. Okay. Come on, you start to simmer and bubble. Hubble, bubble, toil and trouble. I have newt and toe of frog. Something like that. We're getting near Halloween. It is autumn here. We're in October. I don't know what time of year you're watching this video, but I'm making this chutney in mid-October. So Halloween is very close. Well, here we are back at 3:30, rich and dark and bubbling, and I'm just about, I've got myself a saucer just come out the fridge. I'm going to do, I call it a jam test. It's just put some of this onto my saucer and see it's getting nice and thick in consistency. So I'm going to ladle a glob of it onto the saucer, and we'll see how that sets up. The saucer's been in the fridge to get it cold, so we can cool this mixture down really fast. Even though it's still quite liquidy looking in the pan, just like making jams, it should start to get thick as it cools. And that's what we're looking for, is a thickness. Now we're still sliding around the plate a bit, there are lumpy bits, but we're, ouch, very hot. Starting to set up, because we were very runny before. If I can get some juicy bit. There we go, let's see how that juicy bit does. Still a bit of flow going on, so maybe another 15 minutes. Once things start to thicken, it's surprising how quickly it gets very thick and sticky. I need to keep stirring this now. I don't want it to start burning on the bottom after all those hours of simmering away. So I'll stay here and keep an eye on it for the next, well, till it's ready, but hopefully only about 15 minutes more. Certainly it's been a long time. Here we are after that further 15 minutes. I've just done, which camera are we on? There we go. Just done another test. Still got it, this is just the juiciness rather than the actual lumps of stuff. A little bit of movement happening, but this is thick and jammy. See if I draw my finger through it, it's not racing back to fill the saucer. Perfect consistency. And since I've taken this little dob and put it in the fridge, little tester, I have of course carried on bubbling the pan, so the stuff in the pan will be just a touch thicker than this. Time to get this in the jars. And it tastes wonderful. I am really happy with the flavour, which is what you want with any sort of food. It's got to taste good. So oven off, swing you about, see if we can get you to see what's happening. Swing you around. I've got a new camera and I'm not used to it yet. Oh, that looks good. Let's try that and see how it goes. Though that's not a good idea because I want to bring this up here. Can you see? You can just about. The saucepan's in the way now. I've got my special jam funnel to help not splash it everywhere. But if you haven't got one of these, don't worry, it still works. You just have to be more careful ladling your product in. In goes my first spoon of chutney. Yay! It's taken a long time, 3 3/4 hours, but it's going to be worth it. My own tomatoes, my own onions, my own apples. I didn't grow the raisins, Sultana's raisins, or the sugar. Can't do everything. And close these jars. These are a little bit warm. I've had them soaking in boiling water before I lifted them out onto the breadboard.
Well, there we have it. I've done not bad from what was a bowl full of green tomatoes and a rummage around the kitchen cupboards to see what else I had available. I've made a reasonable quantity of lovely chutney. It does taste amazing, so I'm very pleased with it. I'll let this cool down and put some labels on my jars so I know what they are. I don't open them up all excited thinking I've got some lovely plum jam. It turns out to be chutney. Having said that, plum jam would go very well with cheese. And just before we go, at the end of many a YouTube video I've watched, you're regularly asked to like and subscribe. I feel I should be doing the same. It would be really nice to know if you've enjoyed my video. So if you've watched today and you've liked what you saw, click that like button. Give me some feedback. Let me know that you were happy with it. It'll encourage me to carry on making more. If you didn't like it, that's fine. Don't come back. No, honestly, it really will help. They all say it really does help. And it does, because it lets YouTube know that people have enjoyed my videos. And they're more likely to offer it to others to have a look and see if they might like it too. So click that like button, and if you really enjoyed it, click subscribe, and hopefully you won't miss any future videos I make. That's it for today. Whatever you're doing, have fun doing it. And bye for now. See you next time. A small project I did have fun with while that chutney was bubbling away in the saucepan was putting some of my favourite winter squash on display. I'm really pleased. I've had a great harvest this year and it does look beautiful. And hopefully it's going to taste beautiful too when it comes to eating it. I'm sure they will. Chopped up and roasted in the oven. Delicious.